Hi everyone, I'm Will Brosnan and I work in the school attendance policy team here in the department. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to keep my introductory remarks short for today. I think, as everyone probably knows who's joining this call, this is just one in a series of effective practice attendance webinars that we have and are continuing to put on. If you're interested in any of the previous webinars, you should be able to find links to those on the right-hand side of your screen. Today, we're joined by Sue Huntley, who is the Deputy Principal at Studio West, which is a studio school in Newcastle. She's going to be talking about her strategy in the school to improve attendance and the kind of engagement in education at Studio West. As ever, there'll be a short 10-minute question and answer session at the end of this presentation, so please submit any questions that you have via the question tab on the right-hand side. And we've actually got a series of more webinars coming up. So we've got a primary school and some alternative provision and special school presentations on the horizon. So the special and AP schools are going to be talking about issues that are relevant to mainstream settings and how they've improved attendance for the pupils that attend those schools. So if you are in a mainstream setting, I would encourage you to come along to those too, because I think they'll be of interest to you as well. Next week, we've got St Giles Special School, and the week after that, we'll be hearing from Brookhouse Primary School. So again, please sign up to those and join those webinars if you're interested. We'll share the slides as we normally do after this presentation. So we'll be sending those around to the people that have attended. And as with all the presentations, we'd be really grateful if you can submit any feedback at the end of this session to us about what would be useful to cover in future webinars. So I think that is probably everything from me for now, and I'll hand over to Sue, who's going to be talking about Studio West and their attendance. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks. Hi everyone, my name's Sue Huntley, Studio West, little school in Newcastle. For those of you who don't know what a studio school is, we started in 2014 where the government wanted to set up schools that had strong business links, a school dedicated to project-based learning, where students would have clear career and business pathways through to jobs and real opportunities when they leave after post-16. We did start as a 14 to 19 school, which was the dream for studio schools. As I'm sure you're all aware, there is no natural transition at that age, and so we found very quickly that we couldn't get students to come to the school other than those who didn't have a school to go to or were at risk of permanent exclusion. So for the first couple of years being operational, we had quite an interesting cohort of disaffected students. We had incredible success with them, and in 2017 we lobbied the DfE and asked to go from year 7, so we are now 11 to 19 school, where there is a natural transition. And so we have 540 students now, massively oversubscribed, or near enough 300% oversubscription. We have on average 25 to 30 appeals every year. But just to put the school into context, we have 65.3% pupil premium. It hovers between 65 and 70%, which is considerably higher than the national average of 28. We have SEN at 31.6, 3 times the national average of 10.6. And the Adaki index, the deprivation indicator, is 0.36, where the national is 0.2. So you can see we're in a very deprived area of Newcastle, serving our local families who have a myriad of problems ranging from drug, alcohol use, domestic chaos, very low aspirations, sometimes families with third generation unemployment, where there was no history of working and earning money. And that can be really difficult to work with. It brings with it a whole host of barriers and non-engagement, really, because the students don't see the point. One of the biggest things which I think might surprise some of you. You know, I've worked all over the UK and abroad, as has my head, Val Wigham, and one of the things that shocked us most was the reluctance of families to want their children to do well at school. Because if you have a child that does well at school, it takes that child away from the family. It creates a barrier between parents and child. And it's something I didn't bank on. It's something I hadn't experienced. It was quite shocking to see it. You know, we assume that parents want better for their children. But if that means losing them, if that means there's a gulf and a divide, then it's another barrier for us, especially where attendance is concerned. So we've got a whole host of things that are a barrier for us in terms of attendance and achievement. We decided, Val and I, in 2014, when we were planning on opening the school, that school culture is the biggest and most important factor in creating something that children and parents would buy into. We knew that school was going to be the dominant influence in the children's lives, and our intention was to open horizons and to create a family ethos and a family feel. We needed the children to believe in themselves, and the most important thing being that there is a future. Their lives are so small up here in Newcastle. Even moving into the next city, Durham, which is literally 20 minutes away, would be a huge undertaking. And so opening up those horizons and creating real opportunities for the student, as a studio school is meant to do in terms of employment, in terms of business and career opportunities, etc., and getting students to see that they are contenders was the number one priority for us. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thanks. Put these two. Sorry, the one just before that. That's it. So school culture then. So Val and I, between us, have 70 years experience. I've worked in India, I've worked in Mexico, I've worked in America, and all over the UK. And I've been in so many different cultural settings and economic settings, and it's been fascinating to see how people respond to their environment and respond to what's around them and what's expected of them. It's taken a lifetime to see it, and I feel now at this point in my life, which is not too far away from retirement, I have to say, that I absolutely believe it's all about how you treat people. And I think sometimes schools can get caught in that trap of we've got to meet this target, we've got to achieve this. And it's right that we have those targets, it's right that we strive to achieve them, but we can't lose the individuals in that. And, you know, I'm very much against a one size fits all. I'm very much against an overly corporate image. It doesn't achieve anything. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's at the heart of absolutely everything that Val and I do. Next slide, please. So the links to business and employment, we have over 200 business partners in a studio school. And we make sure that every single child who comes to us, we make them a promise that when they leave us, they will have a university place, further education, higher education, a high-end apprenticeship, or a job. And that's what we promise them. In our sixth form, or post-16, students do 3 days a week in school and 2 days placement. Many of them are paid, so they earn a small salary. And it means that there is a seamless transition. Quite often those relationships that they have with their employers means that they have the job lined up for them when they're ready at 18. For Key Stage 3, of course, we can't do that. So we bring the business partners into school. The business partners will work with students. They mentor the older students. And we have placements from year 10 onwards. But it's not just a week. We offer 6 weeks placements, less than year 11 because of the pressures of their exams. But that link and that taste of employment and business and that experience of the life that is to come for many students is the biggest pull and the biggest key to good attendance, because at the end of the day, the students can see their future and they can experience it in school. They see the purpose, they see what's trying to be created around them. and it's the best way to get them in. Next slide, please. So if they don't like it, if they don't like the lessons, they won't come in. It's as simple as that. The odds are stacked against us here in Newcastle, especially with a socio-economic backdrop. And so we make sure that our pedagogical approach is relentless. We have brilliant staff and we invest in them. Our weekly CPD and sharing good practice ensures that everybody has a talent, everybody is a leader, and everybody has a buy-in. We don't do to people, but we ask them to bring to the table their skill set. Everyone's listened to. There's equity between associate and teaching staff, and that's quite unique. I've never worked anywhere where that's achieved, and we achieve it here. We have good quality assurance and quality enhancement. There is a real culture amongst the staff of striving to be the best that you can be. There is no finger pointing. If staff are struggling, if things aren't working, we have a strong buddy system, and we invest in staff. We invest in making them better. We invest in training, and we invest in support. Our teaching and learning is at the core. And most importantly, we operate project-based learning here. Val is the guru behind project-based learning, the head. She went over to High Tech High in America and learned over a period of time the best way to do it. She always tells the story of a child coming up to her in a corridor on a hovercraft that he just invented and talking to her before he floated off on his hovercraft. The kids were buzzing and so excited about what they were working on, the practical element as well as the theory and the hard research that goes behind it. And we've created that here. We try as far as possible to have a bespoke curriculum, and we have an absolute commitment to literacy, because the biggest barrier for us to learning is language acquisition and poor literacy levels. On entry, just about every student we get has poor literacy. Next slide, please. I put this slide up because it's all over the school. We've got images of reading and words and what it means to use language well. We have done a lot of staff training, getting staff to understand literacy is not just about reading lots. You know, it's about language acquisition and language use. And staff now understand how you get students to learn good vocabulary and also feel comfortable using it. In schools like ours, there can be a real stigma attached to being academically able and interested in books and interested in words. And Val and I from 2014 were adamant that we were going to change that we were going to shift that to make it cool to be wordy, cool to be a reader, and cool to do well in your lessons. It's a battle every year with the Year 7 intake that we get, but we work tirelessly to achieve that. There's always progress to be made there. There's always further development, but it's something that we both believe strongly in. I always say to parents, and when they come to see us in Year 6 and they have that introduction, I always say to them, the single most important thing you can do for your child is give them the gift of words. It is the biggest barrier. Children can't read exam papers, they can't express themselves, they can't access the higher grades because they haven't got the language. Students are always playing catch up. One of the saddest things for me, being a teacher of 34 years, is that we've never got it right. We never get in early enough to put it right. So high schools are always playing catch up. Students will always have that deficit. And until we can crack that at that young age, they don't get the language at home. They don't get an opportunity to talk and to communicate well, and good vocabulary is not encouraged or promoted because the parents can't use them. So this is a massive thing for us. Language acquisition, staff training at the beginning of the year, we have refreshers all the way through, and we put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that literacy is at the heart of everything we do here, because once you start cracking that barrier, then access to learning takes off, it soars, it flies. And all the more reason for students to attend. If you're wondering why I'm talking about all of this, you know, our school is a place to come to. It's a place that children want to be in. And this is the biggest success we've had. The reason for our success, is that the school is a nice place to be and children want to be here. Next slide, please. So, as I've said, low levels on entry, significantly low entry, literacy levels on entry, key barrier. It's a key factor in ostracising students from accessing the learning. We have just managed to save the money up to give Kindles to every child in year 7 and 8, and I've just managed to get some funding to include year 9. So now in school, every year 7 will get a Kindle. It's theirs to keep. They get a charger, they take it home. We pile it full of fiction, and we put the school books on there as well that they're reading in English. It saves a lot of money. Books to buy for Kindles are about £1, £1.50. If you're buying the hard copies for school, they're up to £7 or £8 even. We've got pop-up libraries all over the school. The novel is at the heart of all Key Stage 3 curriculum. So we start off in year 7 with Warhorse. Every subject area dips into that. There is communal planning around that. And where possible, all subjects dip in, not at the expense of their own subject matter and what they've got to cover for the national curriculum, but we want it to make sense to the child. So in science, for example, they will do the anatomy of the horse. We even bring horses on site. And then in biology, it's the anatomy of the horse, etc. And in maths, I know they dipped into the rationing and how to budget during World War I. Key Stage 4 is something I'm really proud of. I teach English, and the head is an art teacher. And really early on in 2014, we spoke about how we can get some deep learning. And we decided that I would teach the novel, so Macbeth, for example, and in art, Val would have them sculpting and painting, and the unit in art would be centered around Macbeth. We also did Frankenstein, and we did Animal Farm. And so the artwork would support the English work. That year, I got 82% in my English GCSE results, because the kids absolutely understood the emotions of the witches in Macbeth, for example. They understood Frankenstein and the emotions of the monster and how he felt. And those links have carried on to today, and we do this every year. The links between art and English are pretty special, and I don't think it's done anywhere else. I've never experienced it. I tell everybody who's willing to listen to me, but again, it's one of the key pulls for our students. You know, they love what they do in art. They love the creativity, and the learning in English has made just that little bit more. It's a little bit easier because of that link. Next slide, please. So books and bagels, or books and breakfast, every morning, half an hour tutor, and the students get an opportunity to eat toast. We've got porridge, and we've got fruit. Breakfast is massively important for our intake. A lot of students will come without breakfast. There's a lot of poverty here, and that includes poor diet, very, very poor diet. So much so that during lockdown, I had to introduce a food bank. So we've got our own food bank in school. We have to fund our own breakfast. We did have Magic Breakfast for a while. That ran out. They gave it to us for 3 years, very grateful for that. But it was something we felt we couldn't stop, because children do come to school hungry. And it might only be toast, but it's an opportunity to sit quietly, get their Kindles out and read for those 15 minutes. We also use Literacy Shed, and we also use, for the older students, you know, they can sit and watch a news clip and have that discussion. So although it's not literacy per se, as in reading, it's all about language acquisition, and it's all about using powerful language and communicating well. Next slide, please. Oh, I think we've got to do. Oh, yes, sorry. So the school environment and our positive school culture. Val and I were insistent, if we wanted to create this family feel, if we wanted to make it a place to be and a place to come, that we had to have what makes a school that kind of place. When I was at school, it was full of rituals and traditions. And because we were a new school, starting from scratch, you know, we weren't responding and reacting. We were being proactive. And it's rare that you get a chance to do that in a school, but we really did, because we were really brand new. And so every year we did something that's good. That's going to become a tradition. You know, Christmas jumper, something daft like that. That's going to become a tradition. Val serves Christmas lunch every year. We put her on sprouts. That's become a tradition. And those little things Kids don't get, our children don't get that at home. They get it here. Again, it's another way of creating that positive vibe, that positive school culture where children want to be here. It's their home, it's their family. Our staff all pull together. There is a real communal effort. We have a fantastically strong pastoral support network. And above all, we believe that one rule does not fit all. And we're not a slave to the systems that we've put in. You know, a child misbehaves and does X, Y, or Z does not always equal X, Y, and Z, because you can't divorce the action from the chaotic domestic background of the child, and you have to respond accordingly. I'm not saying that children get away with stuff, but yeah, you have to take into consideration other factors. You know, you've got fragile individuals in front of you, and it's their place, it's their school, and you've got to respond accordingly. And that's something Val and I both feel strongly about. We've worked in schools where things are black and white. You know, well, children aren't black and white, and they never will be. And so this is something that we never ever want to lose sight of. We do believe really strongly in the rewards outweigh the sanctions. I'm not saying we get that right every time. There are times in the year when the sanctions, it's all you're putting in place, you know. And that's something that you constantly remind yourself about. It's about rewards. It's about that positive carrot. It's about children feeling good about themselves and achieving. And one child's achievement is somebody else's common everyday practice. And again, that's where the one rule does not fit all. We have a brilliant curriculum here, hinged around, or centered around, sorry, the project-based learning. And it's relevant, and it's exciting, and it's vibrant. And again, you know, that's something that the children buy into. It's something that, as a staff, we are committed to, and the training throughout the year supports that. Next slide, please. So I've put some pictures on here so you can see what I'm talking about. There's the art room at the top. Poppy Day, we festooned most of the classrooms with the poppies, etc. And the children wrote messages and poems on them. Somebody once said to me, your school's like a primary school for big children. And both Val and I liked that. We thought that's not an insult at all. It's not making us seem childish or babyish. It's not like that. It is very colourful. It helps having a head teacher who's an artist, of course. But you can see the sculpted pigs' heads on the left, and that's to support Animal Farm when we read that for literature in English, and that was the art department did that. Next slide, please. And here, War Horse, which is the book that's read in year 7. We've got the horse, they came in to reenact the charge over the hill on the school field. And you can see some of the artwork on the wall there. And that's English, art, PSHE and maths, because the ration books were out there and the maths department was involved in that, and science, of course, with some of the artwork. It works brilliantly. It makes sense to the children, and we do meaty books. You know, War Horse, we do The Tempest, the Narnia books, C.S. Lewis, etc. So we do meaty texts. Next slide, please. And so there's the Kindles, just to let you know, I sell it to the children. I say to them, I'm going to give you all a gift. I'm going to give you a library that fits in your pocket. And at all points of the day and wherever you go, whatever you're doing, you've got your library with you, and you can dip into any book you fancy, whatever takes your mood, you've got something there to read. And the kids all buy into it. They're so excited to get their Kindles. It's a lot of money. It costs us 20,000 per year, but it's something that I've dreamed my whole life of being able to do, and we've finally achieved it just last year. So I'm quite pleased with that. We just had our results through of our first reading tests today, which show on average over a 17-month period a 26.3 month average progress, which we've had every single year. Our progress with reading, but through reading testing and GL assessment, is exponential, and we're really pleased with that. And no gap with pupil premium either. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Have you jammed? I think, have we just jammed a little bit there, maybe?
Yes, there appears to be a problem with the slides. 1 second, let's see if we can get a new setup for you, Sue.
Okay.
There we are. I think that's, we'll just need to move these on.
Just to the Kindle one, the one after the Kindle. That's it. So there's the Frankenstein one there and the Animal Farm. Next slide, please. Just to support the traditions and the rituals, you know, I'm sure you all do this, the Christmas jumper day. You know, non-uniform days can be chaotic and horrendous in some schools, and we had to bite the bullet, but it served us well. The students really enjoy it. Next slide, please. We really do try to celebrate happy, and that's what some of the classrooms like. Our head teacher is relentless about display and environment. The working environment is all important, and we will never accept an untidy classroom or bare walls. You know, the children need to be able to read stuff, see stuff, and learn stuff everywhere they go. Next one, please. Again, we celebrate happy. And the next slide after that, we just refurbished the staff room. That's our little dog, Blue. She's the school dog. The children read to her. She diffuses many situations. We treat the staff well. You know, it's important that the staff are happy. It's important that the staff feel supported and treated equally, and that they've got a voice. And we make absolutely no distinction between associate and teaching staff. Everybody's important, because the wrap around the child has to be important and strong, and that's what we do. Next slide, please. Pop-up libraries everywhere. We had inherited a library from the old school that closed down, and so we had a wealth of books, and instead of just creating another library, we decided to have pop-up libraries all over the place. Again, so sitting down for 5 minutes thumbing through a book is worthwhile. Students, sometimes they're frightened of books, they don't touch them, it's not cool, you know, and it just breaks that barrier down for us. Next one, please. Again, that was just celebrating Poppy Day, and you can see, you know, how vibrant and kids' work is celebrated everywhere. Next one, please. So what do we focus on every day? Our family ethos and our mantra. Practical support outside the classroom. We've got a food bank. We do food bank referrals. We've got a uniform bank. We've got dedicated pupil premium immediate spend for families in crisis. We had to employ a family support worker this year. It's a dedicated post. We've got learning support and SEN, counselling. Our pastoral one-to-one contact is all important for us. We triangulate behaviour, SEND and pastoral, and the associate and teaching staff, their voice is equally important. Pastoral staff will have the authority over teaching staff to make a decision, because sometimes it's that need that's is the priority, that's paramount, that we need to sort out with the family. So we've gone for the whole family. It's not just the child we get in. We do not work in opposition to the family. The whole thing is something that we have to tackle, especially where attendance is concerned. Next one, please. All our posters around school, we try and make them as child friendly as possible. Again, it helps having a head teacher who's an artist, and so she does all these OPs. And the next one, please. Everything we send out to the parents looks like this. The school looks cool, it's bright, there's lots of colour, and we celebrate happy. So just to show you some of the systems, which I'm sure it's teaching you all to suck eggs, you'll all do this, but it's just the importance of me putting all that culture stuff up, because if you said to me, what's the success with your attendance, I'd say it's that. They want to be here, they want to be with us, and this is how we've done it. We also we have all the normal systems in place. Next slide, please. So we've got the attendance tracker, we've got the persistent absence and lateness, we do the detentions for lates. We've also introduced a £10 reward for the local supermarket, a voucher for the parents who are helping us. So if a parent gets their child in every day on time for a week, and that's a major achievement for them, they'll get a £10 voucher from us to spend at this local supermarket. For our parents, that's big. That's a big thing. Next one, please. We make sure that the rewards are more important than the sanctions. It grieves me to say that we give treats, McDonald's and Greggs. I'd much rather it be healthy and whole meal, but it's what Curry's favour. We've got a Greggs across the road and we've got a McDonald's across the road, unfortunately. Constant praise, constant celebrating. And the big thing we do is we make sure in briefing every morning that the staff know who is doing well, so they can catch up with the child in the corridor and say, I believe you've got 5 full days in this week. Well done, absolutely smashing. Did you get your £10 voucher? So it's the communication is really key as well. That's always been one of our successes because of our briefing that lasts half an hour in the morning. We know everything that's going on with everybody, so no child can ever escape. And they like it. They like the fact that we're in the business and we know what's what, and we know what's happening, and we can praise and we can support and we can help. Next one, please. That's a flow chart just to show what we do. We do prosecute. We work with the family, we work with the child. We make absolutely sure that all the support is in place and we try everything we can, but we are not shy in prosecuting. That has to happen. And parents have to know that we will take a hard line, because one of the barriers for us as parents who don't see the value in school, who think that the child babysitting for them or doing housework is more important than coming into school. We have a lot of children who are carers as well and who look after siblings where there is domestic crisis in the home, and so that's something we have to work with. So yeah, we do what a lot of you will do. We put the minibus on. We have the attendance officer. We've only got one attendance officer, and she will go out and pick them up. We will pay for taxis in extreme cases. We make sure they've got breakfast when they come in. We give them uniform. We get the uniform washed in school if need be, and the children will get changed in school. Any barrier like that, any practical barrier like that, we will just meet head on and make sure that that's just removed. It's pointless saying to a family, you need to get his uniform sorted out, because if they haven't got the money for that, or they haven't got the money on the card for the electrics to put the washing machine on. One family we had last week, she couldn't afford soap powder. So we just buy, at any point I've got £500 worth of uniform in school. I use my pupil premium budget for that, and the kids just get changed in school. And we keep them smart and we keep them clean. It's pointless having a battle with the parents when they haven't got the wherewithal to put that right. So my advice to anybody is just get it done, get the money and get it done. Next slide, please. So if you think I'm just waffling and talking cloud cuckoo, I'm not, because the proof is in the pudding. So just to prove to you, since 2014, we had an RI offset inspection really early on, 2014, 15, 16, I think it was 16. And then we got another visit in 2019 where we got good across the board, which we were cock-a-hoop about, really, really happy. On the next slide, just to show you our results, positive progress 8. For a school with such high pupil premium and high deprivation and SEN, we were ecstatic. And even 2019, where you see a slight dip, that was a very challenging cohort of students where the majority of them were at risk of permanent exclusion. Still really chuffed with those scores, and you can see compared to the local authority, we're only classed as average simply because of the size of the school. Next slide, please. There's your progress 8 for the disadvantaged students as well, to show that the gap, hardly anything for us, because most of our children, if they're not pupil premium, they are very low income anyway, so we don't really distinguish between the two. Next slide, please. This is what we're most proud of, our NEAT figures. You can see 2019, 100%, every single child, and we track them for 2 years as you have to legally, but before that was 93%. It is our aim and it is our promise to our students. Your curriculum will make sense and you will leave us with a purpose and a career and a job in mind, and you will become employed. And for a lot of our families, it's the first person in that family to achieve that. And the next one. Here we've got the percentage achieving a grade 4 and above, and you can see our results are good, comparable, and shows again the buy-in from the children. They are here, they are learning, and in 2019 we got 61%, whereas the local authority 58. and across England 65%. And again, just to remind you, it's a school with incredibly high pupil premium and deprivation. So we had an HMI inspector who said, in the UK, this is rare. And we've had a lot of attention because of that. So we must be doing something right. Next slide, please. Just to end with this, I can't bang on enough about the culture, the family feel, the care and the support for the children. We're tough. We are tough on them. I think children in these circumstances with the domestic crisis that surrounds them, the worst thing you can do is make excuses for them. You have to be harder and you have to be tougher, and you have to make sure that your expectations surpass those that you would normally have, because for them to be contenders in the real world, they've got a number of barriers to overcome. And we work hard and relentlessly to overcome them. So I hope you found that useful. I'll take any questions and do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sue. We've already had a couple of questions in. So there was one actually here, which is about the work that you had to do with parents, to, I guess, to win their trust. Parents that potentially didn't want their children to do well, because what that would mean for their relationships with the broader family. So yeah, really interested to hear more that you can say about actually how you overcame this to secure that buy-in and ensure strong levels of attendance for those children. Yeah,
obviously COVID was a major blip for us, but normal practice for us would be in year 9, the business partners coming into school, the information we send out to parents to show them that we have created a career path for their child, a business plan for their child. And in year 10, the 6 weeks placement starts to open up the parents' eyes to see what their child, what their child is capable of and what's out there and what kind of life they can have. We always make sure that we have good communication between teachers and home. All staff are encouraged to ring parents and have that dialogue. Not just your child's been naughty, your child has done X, Y, and Z, but also all the good stuff. We have postcards home, etc. We have celebration evenings. We have celebration of achievement days. Obviously, that was cancelled last year because of COVID, but that's what we normally do. Any parents who are reluctant to engage with school, staff will go out and go into the home. I must give a shout out for our pastoral team. Our pastoral lead is one of them, in the fact that she does not present herself as a member of the establishment. She doesn't present herself as an educator as such. She has a knack of breaking down that fear of talking to somebody in authority. That has paid dividends for us. Parents who are frightened to speak to me, frightened to speak to the head, will shy away from that, will ring our lead pastoral person, and those barriers don't exist, and that starts the communication. We spent a long time, and we spend such a long time recruiting for our pastoral team. It's got to be right. It's got to be that bridge between what they perceive as the establishment, me, and the head, and themselves. They're invited into school. We have as many open evenings as we can, information gathering evenings and information sharing evenings. We make sure everything is, all the posters we send out, all the leaflets, all the letters, it's all friendly, there's nothing frightening. And it's the little stuff quite often that will make the place much more inviting for parents to come in. And we do have an open door policy as well.
Excellent, thank you. That's very helpful. And could you say a bit more actually about the role of attendance across the school and roles and responsibilities across kind of different staff and exactly how that works?
Yeah, it's been a bit of an organic process. I'm sure you'll appreciate with a small school, we don't have, that's my job. Don't tread on my toes. It doesn't exist in a small school. Everybody jumps in, and that's one of our strengths. So we've got a dedicated attendance officer, just one full-time person. We're going to increase that next year to 1.5. She's responsible for home visits, for taking part in all sorts of pastoral meetings, wraparound care for the child. Within that team, there is a stronger pastoral team who will involve themselves when she is swamped and she cannot cope. There's always somebody to jump in and share the workload. We don't have heads of year as a small school. We have head of Key Stage 3 and head of Key Stage 4, and we have form tutors. We spend a lot of time training form tutors. That's a massively important role. I should have put a slide up about that, really. Your form tutor is your first point of contact for a child. They've got to want to please your form tutor. They've got to be able to share and feel the care and the love from your form tutor. And that's what we insist on. Both Val and I insist on that. And we put a lot of time and effort into training that. So form tutors will ring home. They will deal with a lot of the low level attendance issues. The attendance officer keeps a full check on everything that's happening, and she will make all the difficult phone calls as well as the praise phone calls. Subject teachers are encouraged as well to comment on attendance and make sure those conversations are had with children, especially when they get older, to discuss their attendance, and all that data is shared with staff. So attendance is a key thing, as much as literacy is. You know, my phrase is learning is in the moment, and that's a mantra that we use across the school. Learning is in the moment. You will never be able to catch up. Once that moment's gone, you've lost it. So we have lots of little things like that that we perpetuate across the school. But in terms of, we have one attendance officer, a wider pastoral team, we have heads of Key Stage, a very important tutor role. Everybody's encouraged to ring parents and have that dialogue, and the subject teachers are encouraged to have that conversation with the child and with the parents about time lost. And that's how we pan it out. I know it'll not work like that in bigger schools, but we can't do it any other way because we're small. We don't have that infrastructure that bigger schools have.
Excellent, thank you. That's really helpful. There's a question here actually about feeder schools and primary feeder schools and how, if you have specific schools that act as feeder schools. But I wanted to broaden that question out actually to a question about transition, I suppose, and how you manage that transition from primary to secondary and ensuring kind of really strong attendance in that context.
Right, so we don't have feeder schools in Newcastle anymore, so it's an open field. However, having said that, because we are oversubscribed, hugely oversubscribed and very popular, it's meant that the criteria for applications to the school rests at 0.9 mile around the school. So we only now pull from this catchment area, which means in hard terms, it's a very deprived area. And so we have incredibly high pupil premium, as you've seen, and SEN. Now, that doesn't make for a very balanced cohort, and that's not a good thing. And we've had to really do some hard thinking and planning this year for coping for that, because it's been a bit of a shock to us. So we've kind of been victims of our own success in a way. It's much better to pull from a wider catchment area because you get your balance in the school. And that's all we needed, was a balance. However, we are where we are. And so we don't have the feeder primary schools. We go into primary schools. The head goes in and she does what we call the Head's Roadshow. And she shows them amazing pictures of the school. She tells them all about the dog, Blue. She tells them all about literacy and what they can expect, what the lessons are going to be like, the project-based learning. She tells them all about leading to a job. She even starts that early with them and talks about the kind of futures and jobs they're going to be getting. They see lots of pictures of what the place looks like. The next step after that is an open evening and tours around the school that goes on for about 5 weeks, to be honest with you. And then the parents make their choice, and this will be our 4th year now of oversubscription.
Excellent, thank you for that. And we had one more question here, which was just about the voucher scheme, and just and for parents that are bringing their children in and asking for a bit more information about exactly how that worked. Is it just aimed at the parents of children who've got poorer attendance, or is that something that's true across the school?
No, it's just, we've just introduced this for poor attendance. We've got other rewards and other recognition tools that we use for other things across the school. But we've got some parents who are hard to reach, and this The voucher scheme is just for the parents who are hard to reach. We couldn't afford to do it for many more parents, but for this one, it's something they value. You know, £10 is probably nothing to you and I, but to a parent who's struggling to feed their children for that week, it means a lot. I found that when I opened up the food bank, you know, we'll get a call on a Thursday from a parent, nothing in the cupboards. And so I go down to our food bank and I'll put a massive parcel together. And the head of Pastoral will take that parcel out to the family. And within 24 hours, they can feed their family for 2 weeks. And we can just do a referral, but a lot of parents haven't got cars. Even getting to the food bank to use their referral is a task too far for them. So even that, just doing that, breaks the barriers down. The parents are so grateful. And for our clothing bank as well, so grateful that they don't see us as a threat. They're more likely to engage because we help with the horrible stuff. We help when they need counselling, when they need pointing in the right direction, when they haven't got their benefits right. We've got our family support worker will give the practical advice. You know, this is where you go. This is the door you knock on. You're missing this benefit. You're missing that benefit. You need some food. We'll bring it. It'll be there. That for the families who are hard to reach and who won't engage, something like that goes a long way.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's really helpful. Final question. Was just wanted to get your reflections on COVID and the disruption that's caused, obviously, to attendance and to engagement in education more broadly, and what kind of strategies you've been putting in place to try and support strong attendance in that context.
Yeah, COVID hit us hard because of the lack of structure anyway in a lot of these children's lives. There was even more so through COVID. So we've been battling against behaviour patterns of lying in bed, not engaging, not doing anything, sitting and gaming for hours and hours on end, and a drop in the language acquisition and also it was almost like we had gone back to square one with some students, that they couldn't see their futures. They couldn't get out of that malaise, really. I'm not a contender anymore. And it was almost like we'd gone back to square one. It was soul destroying, really. We had to build them back up. We couldn't berate them. You know, your exams are coming up. You need to do this. You need to do that. That was not the approach that we could take, because their resilience had gone. Their aspirations were no longer there, and we've had to build that back up. We've had to think very creatively and carefully about how we did it. We had some motivational speakers in on Monday for the year 11s in particular. We put a lot of coaching sessions in, a lot of intervention. We extended the school day by an hour, and all those sessions are coaching sessions. So all of the year 11s, and soon the year 10s are starting with this, excuse me, are getting those gaps met and bridged through the coaching sessions. And do you know what? We wondered, an extra period in the day, especially for year 11s, will they come? And they did. We were up to about 92% attendance for that extra lesson in the day. I'm not saying it's like that every week, but the buy-in was amazing, and it made us proud, because we thought, we've got a school here where these kids want to come. It's a slow process. It really is. I don't know what the exams are going to be like this year. We've lost a lot of kids in terms of resilience and in terms of their ability to overcome some mental health issues that they might have. The domestic crisis of the families has increased tenfold, and that was a whole raft of challenge for us, really. So we've had more to deal with. I'd say we've dealt with it slowly, steadfastly, as a team, with practical solutions, not just lots of verbal, practical solutions as well, our families value, and we'll get there. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, perfect. And if I can ask just one more, we've just had one final question in, which is just a question about how you work with the local authority and local authority services and early help, I think in particular, to improve attendance and how that relationship operates.
Yeah, we have a fairly good relationship, and all those services are there to help us. And we've got our family support liaison worker who will marshal that and use it as and when. But I have to say that it's what we do in-house that I've seen the most benefits. It's reaching the families, breaking down the communication barrier. And for me, I think that's, and we can pull on the services and the local authority as and when we need them, but it's what we do as a school that's had the impact. It really has. You know, a lot of families, outsiders are that, they're outsiders. They don't see us as outsiders. They see us as theirs, and that, I don't quite know how we've achieved it, but we've achieved that. And I've never achieved that in any other school I've worked in. But yeah, they see us as theirs, and we're their first port of call. So local authority, fantastic. We draw on all the services that we can, but we make sure that what we offer is important, big, and fit for purpose and effective.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and for answering that set of questions. That's been really, really helpful. So thanks again.